How were we lucky enough to find you as one of our remarkable co-workers? May I say Lura, Mack, currently administrator of our Portfolio Advisory Board. How did we ever become so lucky that you joined our family?
Thank you, Jody. So yeah, it's kind of it wasn't a direct route that I got here from, but my husband and I live in Tecumseh, a neighboring community, and we owned a restaurant there for 24 years, a small family type diner restaurant. And I, at one point in our later years, decided I was ready for a change. So I had decided I was doing the payroll and different things for our business, paperwork, etc. Of course, we were kind of the master of everything, as you know, owning your own business. But I decided that I was going to go back and get an accounting degree so I could carry on after that, after we had decided to sell the restaurant. So I came back to school, still working at the restaurant part-time, and decided I wanted to go to Siena Heights University. It was not only local for me, but I really respected the ethics and the values of the university. I really knew nothing about the Adrian Dominican Sisters, although I had always heard wonderful things. So that, of course, was a bonus. But at that time, little did I know, I went back to school for a couple years and then decided it was time for me to start to make the shift away from some of my restaurant duties and to work part-time somewhere else so I could get my feet wet. So I had decided to apply for a job at Siena Heights at their registrar's office.
Oh,
I did not get the job, but they shared my resume with the Adrian Dominican Motherhouse.
Oh, that must have been a custom at that time.
It must have been then.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of it, but so I got a call from Sister Mary Jo Shingler, who was looking for a part-time assistant in the Portfolio Advisory Board.
Was she an Adrian Dominican?
She was a sister of the Poor Handmaidens of Jesus Christ from Donaldson, Indiana. So she and Sister Annette Sinagra, who's an Adrian Dominican, of course, and worked in the Portfolio Advisory, doing shareholder work for many, many years. A wonderful sister as well, and they interviewed me, and at that time I can remember thinking, I got the job, and I remember thinking, what on earth is a Portfolio Advisory Board? How am I going to do this?
That's my next question.
Which was a journey of 20 years for me. So I gradually worked my way through things that, of course, for me at that time, I wasn't enculturated with the Adrian Dominican Sisters. It took a while for me to understand the whole culture itself, let alone the work that we were doing in community investing and shareholder activity. But during those years, little by little, I gradually became a little more astute in my understanding of all of the work. And
what is one of the first things you realized about the culture of the Adrian Dominican Sisters?
Oh, it was just the openness to really share with coworkers, with other Adrian Dominicans, to really help us to be a part of this community in whatever way. That all Adrians were open, they all shared with you, they all helped to bring you into the circle.
It was like building relationships.
Oh,
wasn't it?
absolutely. That's exactly what it was. It was about building relationships not only with those that we worked with externally, but here on campus and everywhere. And that's one of the things I love most about the Adrians, is that sense of community, that they extend to others, not just Adrian Dominicans.
All right. I'm just a person that came off the street and heard about a Portfolio Advisory Board. I think I know what portfolio is, But how is that connected to a religious community? Could you explain that to our listening audience?
Well, I will do my best. I mean, the Adrian Dominicans, of course, it's a well, we just celebrated 40 years of this ministry. Let me start there.
That's historical, isn't it?
Absolutely. Adrian Dominicans were pioneers in this work, in working with other faith-based groups to bring it about. And they really, go back to your initial question
Yes.
again. They really,
Well, portfolio, I presume, is money. You
the
have money.
portfolio was really about, how do we align our money with our mission? So the Adrian Dominican Sisters, when they began to realize they needed to invest in traditional markets, they began to understand that they had to have a link between their money and mission. They knew they needed the money to sustain, and they started making investments in corporations and knew that they couldn't just make investments. They had to make not only sound investments, but investments with their own values in mind. So how are they going to do that? They began to dialogue and collaborate with the companies in which they were invested to try to help them maintain integrity, be good citizens in our world. So that was during those early years in 1974 when they began that work, and then extended beyond that when they realized that a lot of this dialoguing and things that they were doing was going to be long-term. It was going to be continual. It wasn't a quick fix, but it could make real change, but it took years to envision some of what was going to happen. So they began to do a little different kind of investing, which was community investing in 1978.
What does that mean exactly?
And that means they were investing in nonprofit groups that were community-based, that were making a difference in communies. Whether
For peace and justice and poverty. And
Exactly, exactly. They were really trying to provide capital to people who weren't served by traditional means. They weren't able to get loans, they weren't able to get affordable housing, whatever the case was. So a variety of initiatives that nonprofits were doing in communities, both domestically and globally.
So it's a two-pronged
Approach.
office, yes, and an approach, yes. And the most rewarding for you is which prong?
Well, I think I early on knew that I was really drawn to community investing. Mm-hmm. I loved the fact that we were advocating for people who may not have access to things. They don't have the same opportunities often.
On the margin, perhaps.
On the margin, yes. I just really, for me, that was my passion, was that kind of work.
And what has been your percentage of return with the loans that you have made to community organizations that needed that kind of assistance?
The return has been about 97% repayment of those loans. They were not grants, they were loans. And I think that really speaks to one of those favorite things about the Adrian Dominicans' work here, is that was about relationships. Yes. It's not just a bank loan. It's not just, we're giving you money and hope that you do with it what we'd like. We develop relationships with all those organizations, and we not only monitor our loans, et cetera, but we have established a mission fit with these organizations.
And do members of your board visit these sites?
Well, we invite members of the board to visit with us. We do that as much as we can, and absolutely over the years we've done different site visits with board members and congregation members and others, but mainly that's mostly my role. But yes, and we use those for educational purposes as well. So.
I remember some of our sisters attending shareholder meetings.
Oh, yes.
That was not unusual to hear about. And I mean, it was common for the community, but I think to the people on the outside wondering why we were involved in shareholder meetings, but it was for that reason of justice.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
My feeling is the Portfolio Advisory Board is our mission for the future.
Oh, yes.
Would you agree?
Oh, I would too. And it's such an important mission. I mean, for me, even just being honored enough to be entrusted to carry out this important ministry, I know how much it means to
Then
the
why are
Adrians.
you leaving?
Well, the day has come.
Who are some of the sisters that you've worked with through the years, Lura?
Oh my goodness, I have been mentored by so many sisters, and just to name, some that I've worked with maybe more than others, but Maureen Fenlon had a huge impact on me when I started. She really served in an interim position, and let me just back up a little bit.
Sure.
By the sister that was here and hired me had been elected to leadership in her congregation, and I was only here a few months, and she left, and I was kind of here alone, and I thought, oh no, what am I going to do? I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. And Sister Annette Sinagra was in the office at that time. Well, Maureen Fenlon and Fran Lombears, both Adrian Dominicans, both took kind of various roles, and Maureen mentored me in community investing, and of course in the office as a whole, because she was here during those early years as well as a board member. And Fran did the administrative piece, and they just helped me so understand the culture and the whys of what we're doing, We're building relationships. Everything we're doing is about how do we build better communities. It's all principles of building relationships, communities, building our world into a better place.
So through your 20 years, you've had a general council liaison with you through those years. Who were some of those sisters that, let's say, probably Sister Pat Walters, general counsel was the first one that you experienced. So who from that council?
And Sister Pat Seaman was our general counsel liaison.
Oh,
so we've kind of come full circle.
Yes, yes.
Sister Attracta was on the board when I started.
Oh,
and then on down through the time we've had Sister Melly Giller, Sister Maureen Comer was our liaison at one point. And also, some of these were board members as well, so I came to know a number of them. And of course, our dearly departed Sister Renee Ritchie was a liaison for us as well, in a wonderful spirit. And of course, Kathleen Shantz was our previous one, and now we have Elise Garcia, all wonderful women.
Oh my! Did you ever know Catherine Noonan?
Yes, and Catherine Noonan was, just a delightful person. She was actually, at the early beginnings of PAB, she worked with Sister Louise Borges to try to do some of the foundational work, the research to begin the ministry in PAB. So before 74 and 73, that council had the vision to know that they needed to collaborate with other faith investors. Sister Louise then was directed to attend a lot of those ICCR, Interfaith Center for Corporate Responsibility meetings with other faith investors. So she would fly to New York, and they would do all that early foundational work.
Amazing.
It was amazing that they had the vision during those years.
Who are some of the lucky people to be on the PAB advisory board now? I mean, on your board members.
Currently, we have, of course, Sister Elise is our liaison. We've got a mixture. In those early years, it was all Adrian Dominicans. Our board has now seen
Expanded.
some of the changes that the whole congregation has seen. We've got sisters, associates, and
Former members.
and lay.
Oh, my.
So we've really
Who's
broadened.
Who's the chair?
The chair is Dee Joyner. She's an associate.
From St. Louis, isn't she?
From St. Louis, yeah, wonderful lady. Then we've got Rosemary Martin, also an associate. She's our community investment chair. A former Adrian is Kathy Woods, who is our shareholder chair.
She's remarkable.
She's
Yeah.
wonderful. Then we've got, in terms of sisters, we've got Sister Pat Leonard and Sister Corinne Florick
Oh, my.
and Madeline Lanitz.
Our new.
You're new. We're delighted to have her. She's just brand new to our board. We've got Margaret Weber, who was also a previous staff for many years.
Oh, lucky you.
Wonderful shareholder advocate.
She works with the Gratefulness organization now with Brother Stendelratz.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
wonderful.
I know.
Oh, so
Love her,
knowledgeable.
love her, yes.
Yeah. And Lloyd Van Bijleveld, who is an associate as well
From Florida.
from Florida, and Marcy Brown, who is locally here with the First Federal Bank and works with the Adrians and other areas.
Well, that's quite
Oh.
remarkable. I mean, it's a stunning group.
It is.
A big help to you, I'm sure.
Wonderful. So much wisdom and knowledge there in this group.
Well, what, may I ask, because you are leaving us, and I don't know who has the nerve to follow you, but I hope there's someone out there that has the passion, because you do have that passion for justice.
I do.
Yes.
Yes, very much.
And you had it before you came, but it's blossomed in many ways since you've been with the Adrian Dominicans. What are you going to take in your heart from your 20 years working with the family? Because I know you're filled with the Dominican charism. You couldn't have stayed with us and been with us so long if you didn't absorb that.
Well, that's a tough question in a sense, because I've been so blessed and fortunate and grateful to have worked with the Adrian Dominicans, and I've learned so much about collective wisdom and collaboration. And I think most important to me, and what I hope that I can take with me, is that sense of mentorship that was given to me, that I can share that with others in my own personal life and my community, that I will never leave me the Dominican spirit of compassion and kindness, and how do we be models for others. So,
Well,
yes.
thank you. And I want to thank your husband, too.
Oh, thank you.
that he has allowed you to be with us for 20 beautiful, productive, I might say,
Yes.
and successful years. And that is due to your presence, your being, and your efficiency, and I might say your smarts.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you,